Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today I'm doing a sketchbook tour. This is an A4 Leuchtturm. This is one of their older ones. This I purchased when they were discontinuing their products in 2021, and I purchased a bunch of these. I actually have another one identical to this, same color, same size. This is the A4. It's a little bit bigger than the US letter size of 8.5 by 11. I'll throw the measurements up. But I have one more of these that I need to fill this year. I haven't filled something this large since 2022. So, because in 2023, I did the A5 Stology 365, and then in 2024, I did the A6 Midori Hibino. So I haven't worked this large in a long time. So this was a lot of fun. Some days it was a little overwhelming trying to figure out how to fill the page, but it was really, really good for me to constantly change up and work in different sizes. So this, I'm going to try and remember all the supplies I used and every single thing I drew. But if I forget something, it's also up on my Instagram where I put up what I draw every single day with better labeling and hashtags and stuff. So this is just my I have a Rotring Isograph, and then I have the ink. So it's a technical pen. It works pretty well on these kind of smooth surfaces and stays permanent. So I just drew a tiger and some botanicals, and then May, June. This took me over a month to fill. So it was about a month and a half maybe. Okay. Here are the end papers. I know, it's kind of big when you look at it like this. So what I did was I took this garden catalog. I don't have a lot of things to collage, but I get in a collage mood every summer. The Van Engelen ink. So this is like a bulb catalog, and they have these really cool, it's a very dark Prussian blue, little doodles on the side of their bulb catalog. Let's hope I didn't dox myself there showing the address. Anyway, so I have some of them on here. You can kind of see they're a little bit of gray. And then I took the ink, the Prussian blue that I just bought, and I filled a different pen. Wasn't this one? Anyway, it was another one of these Isograph pens, and I filled it. And I drew big botanicals. I drew kind of peonies at different stages of opening, and then I went over with a Uniball Signo in gold and did kind of fern shapes. So I really tried to fill the end papers a little bit with lots of fun botanicals. All right, I'm going to talk in depth with some of these, and some of these I'm kind of gonna gloss over, but I use some of my products in weird ways, and I thought, you know, if I'm using something differently than the standard norm, then maybe it should be talked about, because it kind of is a fun way to refresh the supplies you own, especially if you're doing like a no-buy-art supply for a year. Refreshing your supplies is important. So this is a Conte of Paris like drawing pencil. I really love this brown. If I could color match this to a pastel pencil with a different company, I absolutely would. I find these to be scratchy and patchy. These are not, especially if you are sensitive to different sensory experiences, and doing things that are scratchy aren't comfortable for you or not enjoyable to you. This product is really hard for me to work with, just because it's just not enjoyable for, you know, you're drawing for over an hour and it's just scratchy, it's weird. And when I sharpen it with an X-Acto blade, it breaks off. So what I did was I collected a lot of the broken bits and I mortar and pestled them. And then I took a paintbrush with just water and I painted this on. So this is just from the crushed powder. This is not from me drawing with the pencil. And when I painted on the crushed pigment powder, it's a very smooth, relaxing experience. So if you have these pencils and you don't enjoy the format of them, try them a different way. Think outside the box, the different ways to create and draw with them. The only thing I would say to painting on products like this is don't forget spray fixative. Because when you're painting, you forget, you get in that sort of, oh, I'm in a painting groove, and then you forget, oh no, this still needs to be sprayed. So I just drew a flamingo, and then I had to spray it. Okay, this is just a Pilot pen. Lots of cats. Cats and birds, they're in a huddle. It was fun. For reference, I remember time frames of some of these, like this took probably an hour and a half. This took 3 hours. So time really varies. This is another one that isn't like a product. I don't know. It's a calligraphy pen. It's a chisel nib. It's a very flat chisel nib. So like Gothic calligraphy would be really, really cool. In fact, it's sort of written that way with this pen. This is the Itoya. I draw with it. I do whatever I want with my supplies. So I did some fish, I did a bird, I did a face. I really love portraits. Again, more ink. I want to say this is the Pentel, the Fude brush pen. And then I have silver and gold gouache. And then I just fine liner some circles with a stencil. So I have an Alvin stencil. This is ink. This is the Ferris wheel press. This is the ribbiting pond. I've used over 1/3 of this, so I'm really going through it. I'm almost at the halfway point of this little bottle. And it does shimmer. It has a gold shimmer in there and it has a pink shimmer. I drew some elephants. And I painted this on with the paintbrush. So this was another one where I didn't use a dip pen or a calligraphy pen or any of those things. I'm really comfortable with holding a standard pen, and I'm very comfortable with a paintbrush. So if I can paintbrush different things, I will try to do that as much as possible because I'm just very comfortable with that sort of element. This was a lot of fun. Elephants. I love them. I love pachyderms. Okay. I never figure draw. I did one figure drawing challenge either in 21 or 22 it was in June, it was 1 month long. Yeah, I never do it. So this is many, many things. This is a pen that's super uncomfortable to draw with. This is the Artline Blocks. It's the drawing pen. They have a calligraphy pen, but this is a drawing one. It's like holding a Lego. I don't recommend. But this is the Prussian green, and it's really pretty. So I have some of that. I have people sitting in chairs. I have the Caran d'Ache Luminance. This is the malachite green. It kind of matches. So I drew other people and little silhouettes. And then I also have some like butterfly elements. So I have just layers and layers of people and different things, just trying to practice really quick sketches. So some of these are more drawings, some of these are more illustrations, and some of these are more doodles. So this is more of the doodle sketch side. And I was kind of in the mood to practice something I never practice, which is 100% people and bodies. Okay, here's another Ferris wheel press. This is the Majestic Maple Syrup. I've used about 1/4 of this. It skews, it has like gold shimmer in it. I really, really like it. I think it's beautiful. I love pale browns. I love all the shades of brown. But this definitely leans a little gold. And then with it, I used my technical pen with black ink to sort of, instead of who, I did whom, because I don't know grammar. I don't know, I'm just being silly. This is an owl. It was a lot of fun. Okay, I have some art journal pages. So this is an art journal page, and I have a very minute amount of acrylic paint left. So I acrylic painted leaves, and then I went over it with gold gouache. And then I wrote with technical pen, and then there's some other little doodles in here that are Pilot pen. It's just botanicals and then me writing what I did for the day. So a very art journal page. And this whole sketchbook is what I was in the mood for that day. So this day I just felt like doing some writing and a little bit of painting. Okay, let's get into this. This is a hound. So this is the Derwent XL graphite. These are huge blocks. They're big. And I don't work big, and I don't work that abstract. Like, I like more fine-tuned details. So one of the things I really like about the Isograph and the Wrought Ring and their inks is that it can write over every medium I've tried. So really dry graphite stuff, you can draw over it with ink, and that's what I did to get this dog with these just 2 colors from the Derwent stuff. Yeah, and I use the Derwent things in many different ways, and I will demonstrate or show you those illustrations in a bit. This is a Tombow. And then I went over it with pink Pilot pen to sort of get a flower thing going on. Flowers and leaves. Yeah, I like faces. I like facial expressions. Okay. I'm not sure this was a success, and I have some failures in here, but I learned a lot. So these are the Caran d'Ache, the Neo Color 2s, which are water soluble, and I typically paint them on with a watercolor brush, and I've been trying to use them like a pastel, like a wax pastel, an oil pastel. And I had a makeup sponge from one of my kids, and I tried to blend it out and see what that looked like. So this was supposed to be a swamp, and it kind of looks like a swamp in the rain, kind of. I don't know. It's what I created. It's weird. I don't think I'll use that blending sponge again, but I now understand what it looks like when I do. I lost a ton of detail doing that. 3 birds. Again, technical pen, and then there's different colored confetti polka dots that are Pilot pen. I use a lot of Pilot pens. It's just a consistent ink I can rely on. Okay, this, and I used this up. And this was another one of these, a Pentel, the Fude brush pens, but it was in pink. And I did a portrait. This was pretty quick. So this was definitely under an hour. And she just is dynamic, and her smile is just infectious, and I just loved her face. So I drew her. This was from a reference photo I found on Pinterest. Again, the stripes, the hair, I don't know, everything about it was just yes. Okay, I did one horizontal, and this is just Pilot pen with a little bit of, yeah, Pilot silver. So it's a couple different Pilot greens, and it's a dog with fantastic ears. Yeah, I love animals too, so. Yeah, this again, the Itoya calligraphy pen. I did a portrait. We got the ruff, so we have some sort of nobility from Europe here, from a bygone era. This is pastels. So this is the Richson soft hand-rolled pastels. I have the 40 set that's landscape, and I draw it on with cotton swabs with Q-tips. So I just, and then so I rub it on the thing and rub it on the thing. And for paper that doesn't have, like, I don't have pastel mat. I don't have specific pastel paper. I just have whatever sketchbook I'm working in. So I've noticed with paper that's super, super smooth, if I don't control how I lay it down in a different format, it gets really streaky and stripy, and I want it to be very smooth and very soft. So taking a cotton swab to the pastel and then drawing on with the cotton swab, and I go through anywhere from 2 to 6 of those doing one of these, it keeps it consistent without being streaky or stripy, because this paper's so smooth. I would prefer to use a pastel paper or, you know, the Arches cold press, that one. That's a really, really nice paper for pastels. But again, I'm working in a sketchbook having fun. Here's another study I did. So this is very much just quick drawings. And I did my Rotring Isograph technical pen in black with some birds. And then I did different color hands with different colored pencils. And I use the Faber-Castell Polychromos. And you can really see that some pigments bleed when you do spray fixative. So that's, I worked one-sided for a reason. I wasn't sure what would bleed, what would ghost, what would get crazy. Okay, here's a bird. So this is just one of my sort of realistic colored pencil drawings. And this is a black-winged stilt, and they have amazing legs. I obviously couldn't capture all of it on the page. But I think this took 2 hours to draw him. And by the time I was done, I was like, I don't have it in me for a background. I've got the bird down. We're good. So, colored pencil, realism. And I was in a bird mood, so I kept going. This is a blue-footed booby. This is a bird from the Galapagos Islands. There's a red-footed and a yellow-footed. They're really cute. I love blue in nature, so I'm always going to draw this one. And yeah, just colored pencils. So I use the Faber-Castell Polychromos, and I have a couple Caran d'Ache luminants, and those are the only ones I use. And then I drew a puffin, and I just have a really cool beak. I don't know what it is. I just really, really like them. I like their beak. I'm all about it. Okay, we can move on. This is the Pentel, the brush pen in pink. I literally used it up doing this drawing, and so I added gold gouache to kind of fill in and help myself out a little bit to finish this portrait. It was a lot of fun. I like sparkly, I like metallic. This was not a success. Stay with me. So I drew a cat with a Tombow pen, and you can kind of see nose, you can kind of see mouth, you can kind of see whiskers. And I wanted to see, this paper isn't sized, so it's not meant for wet media, but I wanted to see how far I could push it. So I took and did a layer of water, because Tombows are water soluble, so it kind of acts like a little bit like watercolor. And then I did a really thin layer of gold gouache to sort of add sparkle and shine. You can kind of see that. And then I wrote over a poem, The Tiger by William Blake, with a pen, and the pen died too, and I had to switch pens. So to me, this reminds me of when you take a stuffed animal and you stick it on a Xerox machine. This is what this looks like after I did too much layers of water. Like, it lost all the detail. It looks silly. It's not a success, but I see how I can push sketchbooks that aren't sized in weird ways. So it has a couple layers of water. It was interesting. I tried a thing. It didn't really work. Okay. This one is a cat of some kind. It's a serval. So this is just technical pen, and sometimes I'm in the mood for a little realism, and then I'm trying to break it apart and get weird with the shapes and the forms. I don't know. This is heavily my mood. So it was whatever I was in the mood to draw with whatever medium I felt like using. So, but you can really see that things bleed and ghosted through the 2 layers of water. Okay. Here's another pastel landscape I did with my Richton pastels, and then my Rotring isograph. I tried to do like a murmuration of birds, like all, you know, when they flow together and there's hundreds of them. So I'm really trying to work on my landscapes. I don't know. Between you and me, I need more practice. Shh, don't tell. But it was a lot of fun. Okay. This is a pelican. Again, this is the Riveting Pond by Ferris Wheel Press. And you can see the weird shimmers, the gold, and there's a pink in there. And I painted this on with a watercolor brush. So I was able to sort of control the strength and opacity by using a paintbrush. So I have thin bits and I have more opaque, darker value bits doing it this way. It's a way to go. I think you use up a lot of more ink when you use a paintbrush, but again, that's how I feel comfortable controlling the ink. And here's a double portrait. I did this on video when I did a review of the Ferris Wheel Press inks because I've owned them for over a year now, and it was time to talk about them. So this is the Majestic Maple Syrup. And I love that color. It's just warm and it's brown and it's gorgeous. Okay, it's probably one of my favorite colors. Here's another study. You're like, what is that? It's feet. I drew feet. So I took Pilot pen and I drew feet in purple and I drew feet in pink, different angles, and it's just a foot study because I'm really bad at drawing feet. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have over 24 feet in here. And it was just a way for me to practice a thing really quickly, get out of my head and see if I can sort of draw feet from different angles with the foreshortening and real quick outlines and see if it would still be feet. So, and then I did some blue ants and some green like little fly bugs just for fun, for filler. But yeah, this is just a foot study. Just for, yeah, I was in the mood and I need to practice. Colored pencil portrait. Again, this is the Malachite Green Caran d'Ache Luminance. And yeah, I didn't even go into the clothes. So I negative spaced the clothes, which is always kind of fun. But yeah, I was in the mood for a portrait. Two dogs. Okay, so this is Pilot Pen. And then there's some Posca silver stars and polka dots. So it's two dogs kind of blended into each other. Yeah, I love animals. I love dogs, I love cats, I love them all. I love them all so much. Okay, so this is another one where it kind of sort of realistic, sort of came apart. So this is an African wild dog. I absolutely love them. I love their ears. They're such a unique animal. Animals of Africa, 10 out of 10 recommend. Check them all out for inspiration, for motivation, for drawing. Again, this is just technical pen, my isograph, and I just drew and drew for hours because it was relaxing and fun, and I kind of had him drip and I didn't fill in parts and there was heavy shadow. I don't know. I was in a mood. He's kind of creepy, kind of dark. I kind of like it. It's kind of strange. Here's another pastel landscape. Me just trying things, and again with the swab. And then I did a little bit directly with the pastel, but I don't know. I'm just trying to get a feel for how to do landscapes and sort of framing them and like compositions, and yeah. Again, it is what it is. Okay, again, Pentel, the Fude brush pen. Real quick, here's a person, here's a sweater. I was cold. This is what happens when I draw when I'm cold. I start thinking about all the warm clothes I should be wearing. So yeah, I leaned in heavily to clothing, which I don't do a lot. So this is good practice for me. Again, more of a figure, not just a face, which is also good practice. And I need all that. Okay. When I fell off the deep end, can you see the little tiny strokes? Okay, this is a Pilot Pen. This is a Pilot Pen, the G207. I had two pens and one was half full. This was a half of a pen, and this took 3 hours to draw a cat like this. It's just a really bright pink. It is one that is not light fast, so if you put this near a window or whatever, it would definitely fade, but it's inside a sketchbook. So I don't know. I just drew a cat up close. So, and then colored for hours while I listened to a TV show. So there's that. Oh, charcoal. Yep. Okay, so I haven't charcoaled in a while and I need to charcoal more. This is a heron and I love bird art, so yeah. I do love charcoal. It was a Derwent charcoal pencil I believe I used. No, sorry, it was the Caran d'Ache charcoal black soft. I have a few charcoal pencils and then I have compressed charcoal and vine charcoal. But the charcoal pencils, again for detail, I just feel like I can control them better, and with the amount of detail I want to include, having things more in pencil or brush format is easier for me. It's just a preference. What's best is what's preference. If you work big and you like big chunky charcoal things, go for it. Do it. Rolling clouds. So this is a landscape just with a technical pen. And this took hours. Yeah, I think this was either 2.5 or 3.5 hours. It was really, really long. Don't recommend. This is like an 03, so the filling in of this huge black portion took forever. But it's kind of like walking that line of how much detail do I want to include and what pen do I use. If I go with a thicker pen that fills this in quicker, I can't get the teeny tiny details I want. So yeah. But when I want to get into that sort of relaxing meditative like state of just sort of creating and then filling in, and it's almost like drawing and coloring at the same time when I have a big chunk that I just have to fill in, so I get into a very relaxed state, and it's nice. But yeah, black and white cloud. Okay, I drew a fish. I don't ever draw fish. This is a discus fish. It's in the cichlid family. I'm not familiar with him. He was a couple hours. I don't know. My daughter's like, you should draw a fish. And I was like, you're right. And then I did. And I was like, oh, this is why I don't draw fish. Anyway, this is Faber-Castell Polychromos. And this is one where I didn't pre-sketch anything in this sketchbook. I've really gotten out of the habit of that in the past like 3 years, and I should have, because if I had pre-sketched this, I could have included the fin, and the fin on the top and the fin tail has a really beautiful dark green, and so I'm really missing like all the colors here. But I tried it. I drew a fish. I don't know. Fish are weird and wonderful and I love them, but like it's not a thing that I gravitate towards when I draw. Yeah, so this is very mixed media. This is the Richardson Soft Pastels, it is Faber-Castell Polychromos, and then it is the Rotring Isograph Technical Pen ink. So I tried to do a thing. I ran out of time. Dinner was ready. I needed to get on that. And this is what I ended up with. I think it's a interesting study. I think it's a starter thing for a more finished, polished actual illustration later. So this may look done to some of you. It's not done to me. This is very much a study. Even though this took hours and sort of I was trying to figure it out, I would definitely tweak this and move the owl around, and yeah, okay. Here's another one. This is just vessel shapes, and I was trying to work on one. I never draw like still life vessel shapes, and I never do things that are like working on symmetry real quick. So I have like a dark red burgundy vases, and then I have bright red cups, and then I have pink splashes to sort of fill in little bits of liquid, say, coming out, and then I just drew and filled the whole page trying to figure out and just do shapes and just do a study of something I never do and need practice doing. So that's what this sketchbook was for. It was for my mood, it was for practicing things, it was getting it all out on paper. Okay, so this is these huge blocks, and you can see the divots. So what I do is I just take a paintbrush, dip it in water, and then I paint them on. So these are too big for my format for the level of detail I prefer. So the way I combat that, and I have a little palette here where I sort of watered bits down so I can get a different value range of pale versus dark. And I painted on the graphite. Again, spray fixative afterwards, and it's a thing you have to remember, but I just did a cat reaching up, grabbing some birds. And it was a lot of fun. And I use a thing I hardly ever use because it wasn't quite the right format for me, and I bought it anyway. So we live and we learn. Here's a bird, and this is a Bowden cockatoo, and I believe he is endangered. Okay. And again, I painted on the graphite with just a watercolor brush and water. And then took a Uniball Signo in gold and did some gold elements in the leaves and wrapped around a gold thread around the bird. So it's a lot of fun. I love birds. As you can tell, there's a lot of birds in here. Okay, these were two new colors to me. This is the pastel green and this is apricot neon. And these are pilot pens. And I just drew an octopus in a level of detail that I was comfortable with some shapes. It's weird, it's wonky, it's wonderful. Pastel is one of those things, I don't know how well this is going to show up on the video, but he's here. I have the right amount of tentacles. That's always a thing when I get drawing and I don't pre-sketch and I'm like, wait. How many arms am I sticking in there? Okay, note to self, always count before you ink. Okay, anyway, octopus, lots of fun. This was a new pen to me. Oh gosh. I don't know his name, so I'm going to bust him out. Gel Extreme. And he's got a whole name, 0.7. This is the bronze. And you can see it has a really nice shine to it. He was replacing my Sarasa copper. So I just drew a deer from our backyard. There's a lot of backyard inspiration. We have a lot of deer walking through. So, yeah, keeping it simple. This is Neocolor 2s, and again, I just drew them on, kind of burnishing, going as hard as I could, so there's no part of the page that actually shows through. Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s, and then I have Pentel Vistage watercolor sticks, which aren't light fast and are kind of strange. I have the antique color collection. And between those two sets, I am kind of able to cobble together what looks like an oil pastel landscape illustration. So this was a lot of fun. I don't know what it is, but when I push as hard as I can so you can't see the white page, a lot of bits break off, and I get it everywhere. I got it all over this page. I got it all over the next page, which is why I just went with an ink and lots more ink. So I drew a dude with a bird on his shoulder. And I gave him like, he's more angry than I intended, and it's the eyebrow and it's the turn down of the lip. So that's on me for how angry he looks. He wasn't supposed to be so mad. But he is, and we're just going with it. So again, this was like a Pinterest inspiration image, and I was like, yep, let's do it. Charcoal. This is a borzoi. It's a dog with a really long nose, and I just think they're absolutely adorable. So I charcoaled one in, and it was a lot of fun. I think, I don't know, an hour. Charcoal's pretty quick. I find like some of these are way quicker and don't look it compared to others. You never can tell with certain mediums and stuff. Anyway, so I did a doggo and I was happy with it. I also use, this is the Mono Zero. It's like the 2.3 millimeter eraser. So I can go back in and sort of pull out really thin, lean highlights with an eraser. And that helps with the charcoal and stuff. Okay, I was getting to know a new colored pencil I bought. So this is the Polychromos, the Caput Mortuum Violet. Very pretty. It's 169, a 3-star system for their light fastness. And I just did some cat facial expressions. And then tried to negative space a little bit whisker. But yeah, it's just one colored pencil, checking out the value range, checking out how smooth it is. And it's a very smooth, easy, blendable, great colored pencil. I really like the Polychromos a lot. Yeah. So, I don't know. This is probably a couple hours just playing around with cat faces. I was in a mood. Was it $263? You know, I just ordered glasses. I went to the eye doctor for the first time. No, this is the Caput Mortuum. And this is the Caput Mortuum Violet. So the Caput Mortuum Violet is $263. The paler one, the Caput Mortuum, is $169. I apologize. I still haven't used this one yet, but I'm getting to know the colors and where they'll fit within my tools. I have about 40, 45 colors now of colored pencils, so getting to know you. Again, I painted on. I play favorites. Blue's my favorite color in the whole wide world. It's not going to change. And I painted it on with a brush. So we have a person, we have birds. It's a windy day. There's a hair situation. I went asymmetrical with it. And then the person sort of breaks down. But again, spray fixative. So that's, yeah. Okay. And this is the Neon Apricot Pilot Pen. And I drew a rhino because rhinos are one of my favorite animals in the whole wide world. And there's a little bit of stars. But yeah, I just was in a rhino mood and I love them. I love them so much. They're so cool. Okay, we're at the last page and we have the logo. And this was just a pastel portrait for my Richardson Soft Pastels. And I just drew this on with a cotton swab. So I was in the mood for a face. And then we get to the envelope and the label and stuff. So this was this whole sketchbook. Again, it took me about 45 days, depending on my mood, depending on the medium, anywhere from 25 minutes to 3.5 hours, depending on what I drew and what I was creating with. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And since I have another one of these, I'm gonna have to do it in a weird, unique way that's completely different to this one. So you can see right here, May, June, 2025. So I hope you enjoyed this sketchbook tour. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.